What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And as we all know, training camp is just 2 weeks away, right around the corner. I cannot wait. Giants hit the practice field again, eventually put the pads back on, then we get into preseason, then right around the corner, right before you know it, the regular season kicks off. So we're really close, guys. We're in the home stretch right before the regular season, and I'm very excited for that. But as we all know, during training camp, crazy things can happen. Sometimes injuries occur. Sometimes players or GMs rather decide, hey, I need to make another upgrade to this part of the roster. I'm not liking what I'm seeing on the practice field here. And so sometimes GMs go out there, make some trades, make some free agency signings. Things can get a little bit hectic during training camp. But how hectic can they get? How ridiculous can things get? Well, that's something we're going to talk about because we saw a mock trade recently that we found rather ridiculous and we want to react to. The Giants, could they trade for a running back, Najee Harris, for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Does that make sense to anybody? Well, not so much to us, so we're going to go ahead and unpack that mock trade and dive into it and discuss how we feel about the Giants running back room, which we think probably doesn't need any major upgrades at this point in the offseason. But before we dive into all that, make sure to like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And I got to know, what is your initial reaction to that mock trade sending Najee Harris to the New York Giants?
Wow. I'm doing pretty well. This mock trade made my brain go freaking numb. I really, and look, was it Ryan Fowler of Bleacher Report? No hate against this guy. I don't know who he is. But just a fun mock trade. We do them all the time. It's always fun to consider different things and stuff like that. But the words that were used to describe this, I think it was close to verbatim, was, it's only a matter of time before this becomes a reality. Why on earth would the Giants go and trade for Najee Harris, right? It goes against everything that Joe Schoen just did this offseason, every single logical point that he made this offseason to offload resources allocated to the running back position and, kind of exercising this positional value model, looking at offloading Xavier McKinney because, well, free safeties aren't that valuable, right? Offloading a running back with $26 million guaranteed by the Eagles and Saquon, running backs just aren't that valuable unless you're like, that's the last piece to the puzzle you need. Even then, the 49ers can't beat Patrick Mahomes. Even with the star running back and Christian McCaffrey, they can't get the job done. Meanwhile, you have Isaiah Pacheco, who's like a 7th-round pick over your 6th-round pick, running all over defenses, right? He is the epitome of why you don't need to overspend at running back, because just having an elite running back, even on a great team, does not make a huge difference all the time. I do think that what the Giants did in going after Devin Singletary was by far the best move they could have done. They gave $17 million less in guaranteed money for a player, by the way, who almost mirrored Saquon's stats last season. Now, I'm not going to go out here and make any rash claims that Devin Singletary is better than Saquon Barkley, because he's not objectively, in my opinion, especially when you think about the context of the offensive lines. Now, the Giants had one of the worst offensive lines in football last year, especially in pass protection, even in run blocking too. But the Houston Texans, where Singletary played, had, I think, the 20th or 21st ranked run blocking units. They were below average as well. Both of those units were below average in run blocking. So when you think about it in that context, yes, Saquon is a better player, probably would have been a little bit better with the Houston Texans offensive line, but I think it would have been marginal at best. Now, I do think the Giants leaned on him to be the primary, kind of factor in that offense, and they had been for 5 years. It is time to turn the page, and Daniel Jones has to be the guy that carries this offense. We can't be leaning on the running back position anymore. If you're really a Daniel Jones fan, if you're really a Daniel Jones supporter, you have to agree that he's got to be the one to carry this unit. He's got to be the leader. He's got to be the producer. You can't always be asking Saquon Barkley to pick up the slack and take over and make a big play happen, or take a screen pass 70 yards to the house. Like, it just can't. That's not sustainable. It never has been. It's got to be Daniel Jones' show, right? Singletary's a fine running back. Tyrone Tracy, low tread on his tires, converted receiver to running back. I think he's a good player. Had 4.44 yards after contact last season, the highest in college football. Really solid player. I think is going to be more of an asset that people are giving him credit for right now. But I do think right now, when you look at the Najee Harris mock trade, you're going to go and acquire, right? You're going to give up, I think the mock trade he had was a 3rd and a 5th round pick. third round picks are valuable, guys. I don't know who's convinced here that third round picks are not valuable, but they absolutely are. If you're a good drafting team, third and a fifth round pick, and I'll let you get in here right in a second,
It was
Anthony.
a sixth and a fourth. It wasn't.
Oh,
A
it was a
third
sixth
and
and a fourth. Okay, so a sixth and a fourth. Even so, a fourth round pick is Daniel Bellinger, right? We got Theo Johnson there this year. Those are some good players, and I think that you're going to get Najee. Look, if Najee Harris was like a second year player, sure, like maybe you could justify it, but he's going into a contract year, so you're trading a fourth and a sixth round pick to the Steelers to get Najee Harris just to have to make a decision on paying Najee Harris a big contract. What we just avoided was Saquon Barkley. I don't see the value there. I don't see the logic. I don't see how it makes sense. And you just paid Devin Singletary on a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. You know what I mean? Like it's totally backward. And look, Najee Harris being added to the equation, what does that do except take pressure off Daniel Jones to operate a quality passing attack? He is a bell cow back. He has like 700 carries in 3 years, guys. You know what I mean? This guy is a 1,000-yard rusher year in and year out. He is a bell cow guy. Are you going to go and trade for Najee Harris and then watch Devin Singletary ride the bench after you just give him $10 million guaranteed? It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I think we're probably in lockstep on this one.
I don't have a different opinion. I think that Najee Harris is a really good football player. I mean, he's made 17 starts in 3 straight seasons to start his career. He's gone for over 1,000 yards in each of those 3 seasons and 7 or more touchdowns in each of those seasons. He's a very good player, but he's also got a lot of tread worn off his tires. 2021, he led the NFL in total touches with 381 as a rookie, 313 the next year, 284. His workload has diminished each season, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he hasn't been the player that he was as a rookie, and he's had a crazy workload that's kind of worn him down a little bit. Meanwhile, Devin Singletary, I think, is a very capable back. He can definitely push for 1,000 rushing yards this year, even though he hasn't done 1,000 yards in the past. This is an offense that's not looking to be a ground and pound team. This is not looking to hand the ball off to a powerful back like Najee Harris 30 times in a game. We're trying to get away from that. We're trying to hand the ball off 15 times and throw the ball 35 times. That's what Brian Daboll wants to do on offense this season. He's going to be calling the plays most likely, and it's all in an effort to get the quarterback to produce more, for the wide receivers to become the focal point of the offense over the running back. So you're right in all the points that you make. I mean, you let Saquon Barkley go. You didn't want to hand him a ton of guaranteed money. You hand Devin Singletary $10 million guaranteed, which is kind of a steep amount anyway. So why would you go ahead and hand even more money over to Najee Harris potentially? It doesn't make a ton of sense. Devin Singletary is not going to be your number 2 back. The Giants didn't sign him to be. He wouldn't have signed here if that's what he wanted to be. And to be honest, that's just not who he is. He is an RB1. I think he established that last season. He started off the year in Houston as the RB2. He won the starting running back job. Now he got paid like a running back 1. He's going to maintain his status as the running back 1. Not to mention, the Giants do have a couple youngsters in their backfield who have potential. Yeah, Najee Harris is probably better than anybody on the Giants roster right now at the running back position, and he's only 25 years old. He is a very, very good player. But the Giants have Singletary, who's also a good player, and they have a couple youngsters in Tyrone Tracy Jr., rookie that they just drafted in the 5th round of this year's draft, and Eric Gray, second-year player that they drafted in last year's draft. Let's see what we have first before we go ahead and make any trades for more players at this position. I think that's very important. So, training camp, like I said, right around the corner, little under 2 weeks. We got to see what the Giants do, or what these Giants players will look like on the practice field. Tyrone Tracy could step into training camp, dominate everybody, look like an absolute stud, and then we're talking about him at the end of the season starting over Singletary. That's totally possible. We don't know, though, and we're not going to know if we add another name to the mix and bury him down the depth chart. I don't think that's a good idea for the Giants, especially at a position where, let's face it, guys, whether you love Saquon Barkley or not, whether you love running backs or not, the position has become devalued. Players who used to hit the open market 5 years ago and get big-time paydays, they're not getting those paydays anymore. Derrick Henry left the Titans. The Titans didn't even want to pay him. He had 2,000 rushing yards, what was that, 2 years ago? And the Titans didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to extend him this offseason. Now he's playing for the Baltimore Ravens. The running back position around the league has the sense of being replaceable, expendable, and you don't need to overpay at the position. It's usually the luxury piece for an offense, like what the Eagles did signing Saquon Barkley. They didn't sign Saquon Barkley to lead their offense. They signed him to be complementary to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, who also has a pretty good rushing attack on his legs as well. So they had that receiving core established. They had a great offensive line established. They had their quarterback established. Then they made the big splash move to bring in Saquon as a complementary piece. Saquon Barkley has never been a complementary piece in his career. He's been the focal point of the Giants offense for the last 5 years. The Giants don't want a running back to be the focal point anymore. They want Malik Neighbors to be the focal point. Then you get him a complimentary piece, and then maybe down the line you add in a running back who's your complimentary piece, a luxury splash signing. But that's not where the Giants are at right now. They can't be making splashes at the running back position. Honestly, I thought that the Devin Singletary signing was a little bit bigger of a splash than I thought they should make, or probably could make at that time. I'm not upset by it. It just surprised me, especially when you watch the recent Hard Knocks episodes where he talks about Saquon and the devaluation of the running back position, Joe Shane that is. It didn't sound like he would go ahead and hand $10 million guaranteed to a running back this offseason. He did anyway, and that's significantly less than what the Eagles handed Saquon. Right now, the Giants' MO, get cheaper at positions with lower value, running back, safety as well, banking on a rookie rather than a $17 million Pro Bowl potential player in Xavier McKinney. The Giants' MO right now is to invest their cap space into high-valued positions like edge rusher, Brian Burns, like offensive tackle, Andrew Thomas, an interior pass rusher like Dexter Lawrence, inside linebacker who makes a difference, Bobby Okereke. This is where they're investing their money, and this is the way that they should be investing their money. These are star players. Najee Harris, not necessarily a star player. You might trade for him. He might have a really good 1,200-yard rushing season for you. All of a sudden, he's being asked to get paid like Saquon Barkley, and you have a future 6th-round pick that you have owed to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a player that you're not even going to pay, and he's going to go ahead and walk at free agency. The trade doesn't make sense. And more largely speaking, trading for a running back doesn't make sense. So it's not just about Najee Harris, but really just the idea of bringing in another running back. Now, if the Giants want to go ahead and bring in a power back, I saw Leonard Fournette wants to play this season. He just released a statement via his agent through Adam Schefter. If he wants a 1-year veteran minimum deal to be the Giants' 3rd running back, the power back in short yardage situations, that makes sense. The Giants had interest in A.J. Dillon at the beginning of this offseason, even though they had already signed Devin Singletary. They were interested in bringing in A.J. Dillon as a power back for short yardage situations, picking up ugly yardage. That makes sense. The Giants don't have that right now. They don't have that power back, those ugly yardage backs on their roster right now. Tyrone Tracy expected to be more of a scat back. Eric Gray, more of a one-cut back. And Singletary, more of your first 2 downs and probably 3rd down as well back. But who's their short yardage 4th and goal running back or fullback? They don't have one. So rather than going after Najee Harris, who's a workhorse, high volume of touches, 1,200-yard rushing back, go after just a low-key veteran signing power back who can punch it in on the 1-yard line like Leonard Fournette. That makes a lot more sense to me, Alex. I'm sure that you feel the same way. What are your thoughts on that concept of bringing in a running back, but not a workhorse, but just a complimentary short yardage situation back? Maybe even that could be Leonard Fournette or somebody else on the market.
I mean, that's a much more affordable option. You know, you don't have the Giants have like $11 million in cap space. But you don't need Najee Harris who's going to walk in a year anyway, right? This entire season is about developing the passing game, right? Not leaning on Najee Harris to have 250 touches, right? That's not what this offense is about. They're going to let him walk, and then you're out a 4th and a 6th round pick anyway, right? It doesn't make any sense. Those 4th and 6th round picks are valuable. If you have a couple players that are expiring contracts, you know, guys that might be special teams contributors, that's where you find value. You know, that's where you can find a plug and play piece and some, you know, kind of bottom tier impact positions, or even just rounding out your depth. I don't think a Najee Harris rental does that bring us to a Super Bowl, Anthony? Does Najee Harris bring us to no? What the hell's the point? What the hell's the point if you're going to go get him for draft capital just to let him walk because you don't want to pay a 26, 27-year-old running back $20+ million guaranteed, right? It's the logic there become a reality. Give me a break, guys. I mean, come on. Like, I know it's the dead off season, but we could do a little bit better than that. And I think that, you know, if you're going to go get a complimentary running back, a guy that could pick up, you know, 50 to 100 touches just to give Singletary a break, yeah, like Leonard Fournette has a freaking Super Bowl ring. You know what I mean? He has experience. He's a good dude. Like, he's a fine player. Or do you just give Tyrone Tracy the reps, who is 24 years old, has basically no tread on his tires. He's barely been a running back for more than a season, and he can be a change of pace guy. He's insane in the open field. So, you know, right now, I feel like the Giants have all they need at running back. Yes, it's not the strongest group in the league, but what like, point to me a team, right? And by the way, you want to know who's a 4th-round pick? You know who was a 4th-round pick on the Buffalo Bills, who's a really good running back? James Cook. So, you know, you can get good players in the 4th round. In fact, that is a premium position to get running backs the 4th round. A couple of really good players. I think Audric Estime was a 4th-round pick this year. You know, there's some really good players that 4th-round picks can be impact pieces. You know, that's where you develop. That's where you have good coaching to get maximum value out of these guys. So, giving away a fourth and a sixth just to let a guy walk in a year that Najee Harris is not winning us a Super Bowl. It's like, are we just handing out? Are we just giving away charity draft capital now? Is that where we're at? As Giants fans, as some Giants fans would want this, we're just giving away stuff. So, that's kind of how I feel about the matter. I'm very passionate about this. So you can probably tell, just because we've worked so hard to keep our draft capital, worked so hard to make good decisions, just to see dumb stuff like this trying to help make us go backward, just to make us go against logic, make us go against our plan. We just went towards position of value. We just took massive steps in the right direction with some of the logic behind some of our decision making. And now we're going to go get Najee Harris. We're going to let walk anyway, just give draft capital away to the Pittsburgh Steelers for zero reason. I don't get it. I mean, unless you guys want to extend Najee Harris, which I think is a horrible idea, because he'll have 1,000 carries under his belt at 27 years old. I don't see how that makes any sense, but that's just my opinion.
We pretty much share the same opinion, more or less. And I'll just say, if the Giants are going to make some sort of trade during training camp or during preseason, not for a running back, for a cornerback makes a lot more sense. And I want to compare this for you, Alex, in the same article if you scroll up here. So like I mentioned, for the Najee Harris trade, it was Giants trade a 2025 6th-round pick, 2026 4th-round pick. If you scroll up here, he's got a mock trade in the same article for Marshawn Lattimore to the Vikings, 2025 5th-round pick, 2026 3rd-round pick. Sign me up for that. I would much rather acquire Marshawn Lattimore to solidify CB2 for the New York Giants for a 5th and a 3rd than I would Najee Harris for a 6th and a 4th. That doesn't make a lot of sense when you compare those two deals. I think that the Giants are far more likely to make a splash at the cornerback position before the start of the regular season than a position like running back or tight end or something of those sorts. I think it's pretty obvious that they don't have an established starter at CB2, and they're probably interested in adding one at some point if the right deal comes together, whether that be signing someone in free agency or whether that be turning to the trade market, the waiver wire after preseason cuts. There will be options for the Giants at cornerback, and like I said, when you're comparing the value of those two mock trades, sign me up for the Marshawn Lattimore one. Please and thank you. I would absolutely take that as CB2 for the New York Giants. Marshawn Lattimore would be an incredible pickup for the Giants, and he is tradable. New Orleans Saints GM Mickey Loomis recently said everyone is tradable, quotably. So I'll take a Marshawn Lattimore. Alex, I don't know if you want to comment on that real quick, but if you're comparing those two mock trades, I mean, the value of a 5th and a 3rd for Lattimore versus a 4th and a 6th for Najee Harris, I mean, you can't even compare it.
Oh, not even close. I mean, look, I'm way more. I mean, that's our weaker position. We don't need another running back, in my opinion. That's not going to be the make or break variable in our offense. I think that Lattimore could be a make or break player in our secondary because we just don't have enough experience and depth there. So Lattimore is currently on a 5-year, $97.6 million deal. Just looking at his contract in general, obviously that's a pretty lofty contract, $20 million per season, close to it on average. Do you know? Okay, so it's expiring in 2027. He has a $14.6 million cap hit this year, which is not that bad. The reason that Marshawn Lattimore is likely going to be traded is because his cap hit in 2025 is $31.4 million and $28.5 million in 2026. This makes sense for the Giants if they offload a big contract, which in this instance would probably be Daniel Jones. And that's the money. Like, that's where the money's coming from. You reset that rookie window, you get the money, and then you allocate it to a player like Marshawn Lattimore, who's, obviously cap hit is elevating. He's only 28 years old, so he's pretty young still, in the middle of his prime for sure. Deontay Banks and Marshawn Lattimore is a 1-2 punch in the secondary. That's really good. And he only has a 14.6 mil cap hit this year. So yeah, yes, I'm way more interested in trading for a guy like this. I don't know what it would cost. That would be a different discussion. But Lattimore gives us actual value at a position that is a liability. I don't see the running back position as like a liability because I don't think it's going to make that much of an impact on like making the playoffs in terms of like getting Najee Harris compared to Devin Singletary. Singletary's a fine running back. He's a starting level back at a very efficient cost. And Malik Neighbors is the guy. Him, Wandale, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, like Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger. Those are the guys I'm looking at to produce and operate this offense. I know the Buffalo Bills like love James Cook, great player. But it's Josh Allen that marches that offense down the field. Let's not be mistaken. You know what I mean? He marches that team down the field, and James Cook is the complement to it. You don't need Najee Harris marching this team down the field just for Daniel Jones to run it in from 2 yards. You know what I mean? Or try to get it in the red zone. Like, that's not where our offense needs to be. Our offense needs to lean on the quarterback position. Why? because I think that they need to see what Daniel Jones is made of. If they think that he can be the guy, if you think he can be the guy, if anyone does, this offense has to run through him. He's got to be the guy that steps up. He's got to be the guy that throws the rock and gets the ball moving downfield, and allow the running game to succeed. If you're leaning on the running game to be the primary producer on offense, your passing game is failing, right? It's a twofold equation, right? If your running game is your primary thing you're running through, you are failing on offense to throw the football. Unless you're the Baltimore Ravens and you have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, then the running game is pretty much your entire game plan. So it's a little bit different. But for the Giants, they drafted Daniel Jones to throw the rock, not hand it off, right? And similar to what Joe Shane says, we don't want our $40 million quarterback handing it off to our $12 million running back. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. So, are we really going to want Daniel Jones if they keep him long term, handing off to Najee Harris on a brand new contract? I don't think that sounds realistic. But Marshawn Lattimore is much more of interest to me than addressing the running back position with more money and more draft capital.
Totally agreed. I think it'll be interesting regardless what happens during training camp if the Giants do make any roster improvements. Again, you can probably expect them to be active looking for a cornerback on the waiver wire at the end of the preseason. I'm excited for that because usually a solid name or two shakes free. Last offseason, the Giants didn't hold the highest draft pick or the waiver wire order pick because they made the playoffs. This year, they had the 6th overall pick, and they'll be picking 6th on the waiver wires. So if somebody shakes free, realistically, the Giants could end up landing that player at number 6 on the waiver wire. So that'll be really interesting. Of course, everything that goes on in training camp is going to be interesting. Maybe they don't even need to look for a cornerback. Maybe they get to training camp and boom, Cordell Flott is playing at an all-pro level, and they feel confident about him going into the regular season. Totally possible. Anything is possible in the NFL. It's a very fun sport, and it's a very fun time to be talking New York Giants as we head into training camp in just 12 days. I can't wait. Hopefully I'll make it up to a practice, go to New York, New Jersey area. Maybe I'll see some of you guys. Maybe we'll do a little fan meetup, to be determined. But we'll keep you all posted. And of course, we'll keep you updated on everything New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss the episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen to Apple or Spotify. Please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Giants.